Hi, it's Jan, and in this HaltonHour Features interview, I am chatting with Naomi from Animal Teach. And it was a real pleasure to catch up with Naomi, and we've talked about lots of things, including setting up a business around your family. Naomi's business is very new, it's less than a year old, and she talks about the challenges and the joys that starting this business has brought her. We chat about the types of experiences that she offers and what you can expect if you join one of her workshops. So I hope you enjoy. So, Naomi, welcome to HaltonHour.
Hello, nice to meet you.
And I'm hoping you've kept anything with more than four legs, just out the way.
I have 30 animal room, but I may have a few little animals bobbing in and out. So,
that's all right then.
But I've counted their legs and there's not more than four.
Fabulous. Would you like to introduce yourself, who you are, what your business is, and who you work with?
Lovely. So my name's Naomi and I own and run Animal Teach. I set this up last year when my daughter was only 3 months old and my son was 3.5. And I come home from visiting my old place of work. And I used to be a college lecturer. I loved it. I got to teach about animals all day, every day. But having two young children really threw into the mix that life can get a little bit more difficult at times to fit everything in that I wanted to do and still be a mum and still be me. So what I did, like I say, I come home and I told my husband that I'm quitting my job and I'm setting up a business to work around the family. And he asked what would it be, and he's incredibly supportive. And I said, we're gonna have a zoo in the house. And I don't think he truly believed me at that point, but there's definitely a zoo in our house. We've got quite a lot. So what I've done is combine my background of zookeeping, and I'm a qualified teacher, and then I put it all together to have my two passions like combined, and that's how Animal Teach come about. In terms of who I work with, so my kids are great at feeding the animals, and John's great at feeding the animals. I've got a few like family friends that will help out here and there, which is lovely. But predominantly the running of the business and the animal care, the workshops, the social media, the marketing, the website, absolutely everything is myself. So I will do, at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'll be recording videos to try and get them on TikTok, which I'm signed up for, and that sort of thing. So I don't have any employees yet, but I do believe there will be in the future at the rate where like I'm expanding. But I do have, like I say, really nice family friends and my own family that will bob along and help out where needed or provide advice and support, which is key.
Lifting and carrying, yeah. So how, I mean, you made the decision to base a business around life and having kids.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you find the transition? Because I know, as somebody who has been self-employed, I mean, I work full time now, but I also do my own bits at the side as well. And I know from being self-employed for a gazillion years before that, it's not quite as simple as people work out. I mean, you've just said I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning shooting TikTok videos.
Yeah.
And that is very much what it's like, because you've got all these different hats and you've got to do all of them. If someone who's a self-employed sole trader. How have you found that transition from a nice, stable, employed life to a everything's on me life?
Ups and downs. So, I mean, last year, it was an idea in my head that I'd like to have something to fit in around the family and that sort of thing. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, right, I'm totally going to do this. I'm going to go whole hog. It's going to be fantastic. I can choose my hours. And, it was probably a little bit naive. I didn't have necessarily a business background. Like, I was in full-time employment since 16 pretty much. And I was always in education or employment. So that was always like that sort of continuity that each month I knew what was going to happen. I did approach the Prince's Trust, so I hadn't turned 30 at that point, and they ran some courses, the enterprise program, and I went on board with that. They were incredible. They opened up so many avenues in terms of learning about the business side. Granted, some of it I didn't have a clue what they were talking about, and I was like, yeah, I'll write a note of that, I'll write another note of that. And there was a lot of note making, and it was that did help me sort of learn the terminology, and that it's not as simple as, you know, waking up and making a website. There's a lot more that goes into the business aspect. The animal side, yeah, totally got it. The teaching side, fine. But the other side, I was like probably a bit naive. And then before even being able to sort of fully go ahead with what I wanted to do, I then had to set up the zoo, as I call it, at home, and then be licensed by the council under UK law and the animal activities involving animals regulations 2018. It's a very long one, so I had to set up that aspect, which I knew again because of like my previous job roles, so that side I could do. And then it was a case of, right, Halton Borough Council have come out, I am now fully licensed, I am registered, and all my insurance was in place. And then I remember sitting at my computer. Yes, I'd built the website, and yes, I'd had all these plans, and everything I do is curriculum based and linked into what organisations I work with want to do. And then I sat there in the first week of January. So we got the license just before Christmas, which was fab. And then the first week of January, I sat at my laptop and I was like, oh my goodness me, now it starts. Like, what on earth do I actually do? Yes, I wrote a 71-page business plan. And yes, I've sat up till 3 o'clock most nights for the last 6 months in between, looking after the kids and building a website and thinking of ideas and plans. And then, like, say, January, I was like, oh my goodness, there's no going back. Like, I've really got to do this now. So the transition has been very, very exciting. I absolutely love that I've got so many ideas and I can put them forward. Yes, some of them work and some of them don't. Or I can go, right, I'm going to try this. Let's do that. Let's do this. But then the other side is you have to tell yourself to stop, because all them hats that you're wearing, it's like, oh my goodness me, I'm going to either burn out already before I even start. And you have to tell yourself to have a break. You know, yes, there's loads of hats, and even now, I mean, constantly 24/7. I already know, like, right, I've got the animals to feed, water, spot clean. Then I've got to go do this, and I've got to do the website. I've got to reply to emails. What am I doing now? Oh, I've got a booking tomorrow, and that's always in the background. You have to like really tell yourself to, yes, it is your job and your livelihood, and everything is there, but you're still entitled to have a little brain switch off, which is difficult for me because I keep on going and going and going, so I just get so excited. So yeah, the transition's been very hit and miss.
I mean, that's one thing, if there's any advice I can give, having been there, and it is the burnout element, because you're so aware that this is my livelihood, and if you don't work, you don't eat. So
Exactly.
That's how it works. But do plan in the recovery time, the downtime. It's okay to, go and have a bath with bubbles up to your neck and that's fine. It's all right. But no, I mean, because you surprised me in a way, because I mean, I don't know you from Adam, and you approached me initially on Instagram on the rare occasions that I post over there, because I'm not on Twitter. And it was for one of the Halton hours, and you said, can I please do this? And I went, yeah, of course. Yeah. Who the hell are you? So I did a bit of reading round. And you did seem to just sort of spring, sort of, ta-da, I'm here, from absolutely nowhere. And it was like, wow, because I mean, I love the idea of it. And I'll be honest, working with kids is about that much higher than working with anything with more than 4 legs in my book. It's sort of horrifying and really sort of amazing at the same time. I mean, it is. I mean, I don't do kids and I don't do schools, but way back when I was at school, you had the hamsters and the stick insects. I mean,
oh yes,
does that not happen now? Is there a need for what you do with the animals?
I believe so, and obviously I'm a little bit biased, aren't I, because it's my business, but there are schools that do animal care, And there are places that have stick insects and hamsters or snails and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
However, recently there has been more tighter restrictions about animal welfare in certain scenarios. So, like I say, for me, you need licensing to get out there, to get into schools, you know, to be DBS checked. Equally, getting into the community, you know, there are other people that do similar things to me. I won't say the exact, but similar. They have animals and they take them out. I believe that for me, my background has a very strong holding, and my experience at that. I've got the zoo world. I've taught in a land-based college. This isn't a hobby. Like, since, I mean, I didn't have animals necessarily growing up, but since 16, I've been in college, university, multiple degrees. Everything I've done has been to train and educate myself, and get the best knowledge that I can possibly can. And I'm always learning, like there's always things that change and stuff. And then take that forward, which is where my slogan come from, about inspiring our future. So yes, there are places that have these animals, and there are places that, you know, will have sort of different elements of the teaching. But I do think what I do is very like practical and real world. You know, I don't have certain handling I have certain handling protocols for certain reasons, because I know when children or even teenagers grow up and they're out in that world where you have got to adhere to protocols and policies. You know, you can't hold every animal, you can't touch every animal. It's about respecting them and respecting, you know, like that sort of thing. And getting it across that, even though that may be the case, you can still experience something incredible having stick insects or having a hamster and learning that part. So yeah, I do think there's a need. I think there's a need to, I mean, animals are a hard one, aren't they? Because everyone will have an opinion. It can be politic based, you know, it can be, well, they said that, they said this, they said that. But for me, it's about doing things the best way that you possibly can, and then demonstrating that to others. Excuse me. So yeah, for me, there is a need, and so far the last, just got into month number 9, has proven it. You know, I'm not only in schools, or whether that's nursery, primary, secondary, all through. I've been out working with people in the community, so lots of community groups, lots of community events. I also work with people on probation. So I've got any community like possible. There's that accessibility, and opening up doors. Like, not everyone. I'm very lucky. I've worked my socks off, but I'm also very lucky. I've got some of the most incredible animals, and not everybody gets to see that. So to be able to give that opportunity back, to a school or a care home or whatever it may be, for me is very important. And like I say, the calendar's showing that people want it. And you know, I was hesitant at first, because education is something that is very well, you know, talked about, and it's so important, and you know, that sort of thing. And one of my biggest fears was like, oh, but there are people doing this, and you know, they get to have a snake around the neck and this sort of thing. But I don't necessarily believe in that for various reasons. But my biggest feedback so far from every place I've been to has been how educational it's been. So that's reaffirmed that yes, that leaf I took was definitely worth it. No matter what scenario I go into, and you know, I always explain the reasons why and stuff. Yeah, so definitely a need, in my opinion, anyway.
One of the things I liked as a lifelong vegetarian, it's like, and I have very, very mixed feelings about the use of animals, whether it be in zoos and safari, or whether it be in workshops and education. And it is very, very mixed and conflicting. But one of the things I liked that was very clear from your website is, look, I'll bring these animals along, but if they don't want to come out, they're not coming out.
Oh yeah, they're my babies.
So there's a very obvious respect there for the animal that you're working with. So and from you social updates as well, from when you put your pictures and your videos up, it very much seems to be a partnership rather than all this. Do you see where I'm coming from? It's not drag it out of the cage and you get this 5-year-old coming along and going smack, like
oh no.
That's always my sort of fear.
So.
And
No.
from the little videos that you've shared, and I know you're only seeing snippets, and from the way you presented yourself, it does seem to be a partnership rather than exploitation is the wrong word, because you definitely do not go that far. But do you know where I'm coming from? Is that I mean, was that intended right from the beginning?
Definitely.
That this is what I'm going to do.
Definitely. I you know, my background has always been to teach and do best practice. So working in the zoo world, you know, you're working around dangerous animals and you have to be fully aware. Equally, it's so incredible to be working around them. So you do want to, you know, learn about them and learn the behaviors is a massive thing. And then teaching that to so many college students, like even people I meet now, even family, friends, whatever, so many people are like, I can't wait to have this snake around my neck, or I can't wait to do this, or I can't wait to do that. And I have to sort of like go, right, nice and professional. I understand why people do it. People get so excited about animals. But my background, and it's something like I believe in anyway, is to still teach animal respect. So, you know, I would love to see all of these animals out in the wild and you could go out and see them. Unfortunately, it's not the case. And, you know, if I could travel to Madagascar and just sit with chameleons, I'd love it. But, you know, it is one of those things. So for me, is if they are in my care, they get the best care. And if I am using them as a business, you know, to go out and educate everybody and anybody, it's, you know, for them. So I have risk assessment 101 before even people like touch the animal, see the animal. The first thing I talk about is that, look, this animal has a certain defense mechanism, it's got a certain behavioral repertoire. You know, I don't do snakes around the neck because, especially young children, then the arteries are there. That's a big fear. If my animal decided to bite, you know, any animal can do that if it wants to. And one of the first places it's likely to go is somewhere on the face. And for me, that is just not worth the risk and all the additional paperwork I'd need to fill out. You know, it just for me doesn't sit right. You know, the handling protocols for tarantulas and certain invertebrates I've got is they are on a prop. So they are on a piece of bark. I don't directly do it on hands, because if I did and that animal was dropped, you know, it's a natural human reaction to flinch. That animal's welfare is compromised straight from the off. And, you know, that's an animal that, again, is in my care. And they have names, you know, I don't want Jenny, Charlotte and Scarlet to be injured when they could have that sort of avoided. And I do find, especially those with like fears and a little bit of sort of nervousness, having that prop helps anyway. You know, they're still up close to an animal. They're literally a piece of cork bark between them, but they're still eye to eye with an animal. They're still face to face. They're still up close. They're still learning, like with the snakes, you know, you hold the upper third and the lower third, and I'm holding this way and you're holding that way. And with animal care becoming more of a relevant thing, you know, I was in a land-based college, so it was a massive thing. But, you know, it is in colleges and it is in schools. And for me, like, if I was teaching that in my previous job role, and doing that myself, why on earth would I not go forward with that? Because I'd just be contradicting everything I've ever taught and learned for the last 14 years. Yeah, so it is very much like when people want to do, like, right, I don't do this, I don't do that, I don't do this. If that animal is showing any of these signs, they're straight back in. I don't make them do anything they don't want to, because they are my additional babies, you know, and I don't think it's fair either. You know, it's, again, I very much like yourself, I'm not vegetarian, but I do have very mixed reviews even doing this business, because I want to really, really educate people. But then the other part, like I say, is I also just want to sit in the wild and have them out doing what they're doing. You know, so it's very difficult. So if I can give them the best chance of still behaving how they typically would, you know, still acting how they typically would, like giving them the best diet, the best requirements that they need, and then educating people in the way, like on the way, and seeing how their mindset changes, and, you know, that sort of thing, for me, that's worth it. But yeah, oh my goodness, risk assessments, protocols, policies, the inspector who come out to do the regulation, I think, oh my goodness, I sent like probably 15 to 20 different protocols and policies which I follow at every single event. So yeah, so it's important to do it a certain way anyway.
It is. So what goes on in one of your workshops? Do you have a typical workshop that you would
Yeah, so if I was to base it on a school, for example, so at the minute it's sort of split up. So I do schools and education, then there's lots of community stuff, and then there's some birthdays. It is advertised as a birthday party, but I might as well call it an educational workshop because yes, I do like goodie bags and stuff for the kids and they get a certificate, but I'm still very much like, right, you do it this way, you do it that way, and you do it this way. So a typical workshop, no matter what the scenario is, before I even start, I check all of the animals' behaviour on a daily basis. They live at home, which is great because then I'm obviously watching them and seeing what they're doing. Then I assess, like, okay, which ones are able to go out today? What size group do I have? Who's likely to respond very well? Who doesn't want to go out today? And then I get the transport ready, all of the resources, the hygiene stuff, absolutely everything. So my hallway is like full of everything. Then I get all in the car and I load it up appropriately and I get to the place and then I set up. So before even at the place, I have worked about 2 hours. And then I set up when in the workshop the risk assessments, GDPR I follow very heavily, so get permission from parents, families, schools before I post any pictures to make sure, you know, they're comfortable for me to do so. And then once I've done that, I tend to introduce myself unless it's a group that I know. So there are actually quite a lot of regular faces now, which is so nice, and they're coming to new workshops, and which is lovely. But I do an introduction, sort of like, you know, set the scene that I'm not a random person with animals and boxes. You know, this is the reason why I've done it, this is where I come from, and this is what I'm going to teach you today, and, you know, have some fun along the way in a very, very exciting way. And then I always start off with the invertebrates first. So the invertebrates always come out first. I explain, you know, millipedes, you know, they're wonderful, but they will go the toilet on you. Or, you know, snails, they have the muscle. I know you're not too keen on these animals, so I'm just going to go very quickly.
The screen there, so we're fine. And it's spider season at the moment as well, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Going, oh, for God's sake, yeah.
We've got Incy, Wincy, Bob, the kids' name ours, they're everywhere. Yeah, so there's the invertebrates first, and then what I do is I then work my way up to what I call the big animals. You know, it's not as big as what I'd like to have. I mean, there's no chance I'll be having a Komodo dragon in the garden anytime, but that is a big animal. But for me, you know, the biggest species that people see. And then I work my way through like the snakes, the lizards, hand sanitizing in between for biocontrol and that sort of stuff. So, and then each animal I'll introduce their names. If there's like 20 stick insects, I get the kids to name them because I run out of names at that point. They end up becoming just Sticky and Twiggy. And then with every animal there's a handful of facts, if not more. So there's, where do they come from? What do they do? What's their defense mechanism? How do they do something? Right, you know, cockroaches hiss, let's tell you why they hiss, why are they doing it? And then all my way up to the big ones, you know, the animals, for example, the chameleon, his feet split so he can climb onto a branch. We're going to pretend you're a tree. You might try and sit on a higher branch up here or something like that. So there's the ways to implement like what the animals are doing and make the guests feel as comfortable as they possibly can. At the end of the workshop, I always say a thank you for attending, you know, and supporting a local business. For one, supporting what I do, it reaffirms, you know, like last year, you know, it was an idea, this year it's reality, and I'm going for it. So it just, you know, it makes me feel a lot more confident that, yeah, that leap was worth it. And then I do provide quite on a lot of occasions, but it's being refigured out again, just looking at the business side, you know, prices are going up, but at a lot of the previous events that I've done, you know, there are things that children or families can take home. So there's wooden cutouts of the animals that they can do arts and crafts with, or there's colouring pages that I've created, there's mazes and word searches, there's where to get more information, there's, you know, my information on my cards, and if you want to follow on social media, do it here. There's no pressure for anyone to then go and book something. Yes, I am a business and that is the idea, people book onto what I'm doing, but for me it's just enjoying that moment and enjoying what people are doing, seeing, especially like if someone's nervous, it doesn't matter if they're a child or an adult, but if they get over like this mini fear or a big fear or whatever it is, and then seeing that smile, and then at the end of it, if there are faces that I see again or something else comes from it, then that's a win-win. But it's that moment for me that it's very much like, have fun with the animals. You've probably never seen some of these before. Let's learn about them. Let's talk about all the risk assessments that go with each animal. And then here's some stuff to take away and, you know, learn in your own time or whatever. And even now it's quite nice because I have families messaging and the kids are asking me questions, or, you know, I've started, like, I do the social media myself, so I'm like, have you got a picture? Because I've been so busy with the animals, I forgot to like put one on here. And, you know, it creates a nice community feel. So typically that's a workshop from start to finish: introduction, animal 101, like risk assessments, everything. Enjoy it, learn new skills, and then there's a take home, which comes from my teaching background of having a, you know, a starter, a main, a plenary, and then follow on to the next session. So that's typically, but it can vary. It depends what I'm doing, where I am, who I'm with, how many guests. Have I put on my own summer school club, for example, where I hosted different events. So I taught lots of children this year how to health check an animal, how to weigh species, you know. Then we did food prep, how to get them the best diet, why is it important, the nutrition. Oh, there was another one. Oh, habitat building, enrichment creation. So taking my background again and going, right, this is what we're going to do. It just makes it more fun, doesn't it? Instead of, I felt this.
How many kids have gone home to the parents and gone, Mum, I want a cockroach as a pet?
Oh my goodness. I have to do a disclaimer, like, I'm so sorry. I am not responsible for anyone asking anyone that they want an animal after this. And then the amount of people that are like, my child really wants a snake now. I'm like, well, I can educate you on how to like get it set up, this, that, and the other. And quite often people take that on board, which is nice. But yeah, pretty much, I don't know, quite a lot are like, I really want one of these now. And, you know, which is nice, but then you can see that they start going, but I need to research their behavior, I need to know what they eat. And I'm like, oh yeah, achievement, definitely.
That's it, isn't it? It's all fun. I have just clocked the clock and we've been chatting for 25 minutes and I've not even glanced at my note yet.
Oh my
So it's flown by.
It has.
So before we sort of start winding up, you've mentioned that you're all over social media and that you've got your website. Do you want to tell people how to contact you? And we'll make sure go on the video and on the website so that people can get hold of you and follow up with you.
Lovely. So my handle, I think it's called, or at thing, so it's at Animal Teach Ltd for Facebook. But either way, if anybody searches Animal Teach on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, the logo you're looking for is Animal Teach with a chameleon in the middle, and my slogans: inspire our future in rainbow colours. So that's the logo to go for. Obviously, like, follow, share. If anyone wants the contact details, like contact number and WhatsApp and email, that's all on the website, and again on all the social medias as well. And then the website has also got a contact form, so if someone's browsing the website and they go to the information and contacts, or contacts and booking information, there's a form that you can fill out there, and then name, where you come from, drop a message. I get that email directly to me that way as well, and then I can reply through that through the email that way. So it is everywhere. There's no reason for no one to not find me because I've just gone on everything pretty much on what I can fit in at the minute.
I mean, you've mentioned, because you know, social media and websites, I mean, it's worldwide. You know, you've got worldwide reach. Oh, hang on, well, it's shouting at me now. It's shouting at me going, we'll end in 10 minutes.
Oh yeah.
But you're very local in what you do, so you don't travel much outside of the area. So where do you actually work? I mean, you're based in Halton, so
yeah.
How far out do you travel? What town
So
do you go?
I'm able to travel up to about, I'd say, no more than 45 minutes to an hour maximum each way. For the time, like, I'm preparing, setting up, the animals are out, and vice versa, you know, getting back as well. So that's my maximum. However, about probably 99% of my work is Halton. You know, I have gone and done some events in Cheshire and Northwich and Warrington, so a little bit further afield, but predominantly it is Halton based. which is perfect for me at the minute anyway, because I fit it in around my husband working shifts and 2 young children. So yeah, predominantly Halton. I am able to travel. You know, I am able to go that bit further afield. It depends what John's working, where the kids are, and if I've got that time frame to do it at the minute. But as obviously, you know, kids grow up and, you know, lifestyles change and stuff, that will become a little bit different. So yeah, mostly Halton and any local area.
Okay, so before we get cut off,
Yeah.
is there anything that you want to bring up and talk about? Is there anything that we've not covered that you wanted to have a chat about?
No, I've had a really nice time, and obviously I like promoting what I do, and thank you for wanting to chat. I know I was sending a random message earlier. This was like, hello, it's me. No one knows who I am. I've just appeared. I was in the paper last week. Yeah, so no, just a big thank you, and I'm happy with what we spoke about. You know, I think I've got the message out there that I have certain protocols, and I'm not a typical animal supplier or whatever. You know, I'm a traveling college more than anything with what I'm doing. Yeah, so no, I'm quite happy.
Oh, that's fabulous. Do you know, it was really, really lovely chatting to you, Naomi, and I'm so thankful there's no spiders crawling along the bottom.
No, that's what I'm going to sort now. I'm going to feed, clean and water them all, and then get all the paperwork done. Yeah, so not a quiet minute ever.
No, and there's never ending paperwork as well, isn't it? So thank you so much for agreeing to chat to me.
No worries.
I will get this downloaded, transcribed, and up on the website. Can't guarantee dates, but it'll be towards the weekend.
Yeah, lovely.
So
lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time, and have a fabulous
day. It's fine. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye. See you soon.